Welcome to Dugout Chatter. We are going to see how America's pastime has shaped generations of young men and women into the determined people they are today.
Hello and welcome back to Dugout Chatter. And this is going to be a fun episode because it's the first time I brought on a family member. So I have my oldest brother, Ryan Giffin in studio. How you doing, bro?
Okay, thank you so much for having me on, man. You're the talk of the baseball chatter, at least in my community. And
yeah, and then downtown South Florida and all that. But before I get into the news we talked about before we got on air, I have a couple questions for you.
Let's hear it.
So who is the voice of the podcast?
Of this podcast?
Yes,
or opening?
Of this podcast. Opening, yeah.
It is our mother.
Oh, there you go. All right. And who made the intro and outro music?
Man, I don't know if I know that one.
You should.
I would assume it would have been Braden, but
no, you're close.
Okay. Did you?
No, it was Josh.
Oh wow! I did not know
Josh
that.
made the
Our
intro
cousin,
and outro, instrumentals, mixed, mastered, produced, recorded, everything. So big thank you to him for that.
This is truly a family podcast.
No, it really is. And before we dig any deeper, it's even more of a family podcast because you're the owner of Ravish Off Ocean Kitchen and Cocktails, and they're sponsoring this episode. Thank you so much for the sponsorship. And what do you want to plug quickly before we go into that about Ravish?
No, just love what you're doing here, and proud to be a sponsor. I have our restaurant sponsor you. I'm sure we can talk more and plug that all later, but we're just a local restaurant in Lantana, and love what you're doing here, and just want to support you here, and and promote our business as well.
Thank you so much. And Andrew, you're going to have a good date night there. He's our producer. So digging deep into it, like I talked about on my solo episode, you were kind of the one that introduced baseball into the household. So what was that like? Did Dad have any ideas for sports or whatever? Did you just blindly jump into baseball?
No, Dad was not a baseball guy, but yeah, I found baseball because in kindergarten I actually made friends with my best friend at the time, Aramis, is his name, and he had played one season of like t-ball or coach pitch, and I was like, oh man, I want to play sports. That looks so cool. And then at the same time,
he invented a pitch.
Yeah, at the same time, our neighbor was actually our cousins, and Edwin, who Lele was married to at the time, was a big Yankees fan, and he had like a Yankees tattoo, and he had Yankees on the TV. And actually, I never played t-ball or coach pitch, but I started playing so much neighborhood baseball, and then after a while. I don't know what took Mom and Dad so long to get me into a league, but by the time I could play kid pitch, they're like, okay, you can go play kid pitch now. And actually got pretty good in the neighborhood. And I remember on the first team, I was like one of the better players. Like I pitched every game and played shortstop and did all that. And in life, I kind of always have gone like a mile deep into whatever I'm into. And yep. I could have told you every stat, watched every game. The first World Series I watched was the 1996 Yankees. And
against the Braves.
Yeah, and actually,
19-year-old Andrew Jones dropping bombs.
Yeah, that first game was like heart-wrenching to watch. Peta just got lit up, and I was like, "Dang!" I thought these Yankees were awesome. Everyone told me, and I remember because I watched the playoffs going in. They beat, or I remember the Tony Tarasco. The Derek Jeter home run, some of my early baseball memories. And I remember the whole playoff series. I remember staying up late, and I fell asleep that night. Jim Leyritz hit that home run.
Oh, yeah.
And Dad told me the next morning.
The one against Atlanta? Because he had one against the Mariners, too.
Yeah, Leyritz had some big home runs, and him and Girardi did the catching back then before Posada took over. And, man, I just fell in love. Derek Jeter's rookie year, and wore number 2 on every team I could, and fell in love with that. And what a magical time to fall into baseball and pick a team to like. The Yankees go on that dynasty run. It just kind of
take over the 90s and then leading into the early 2000s.
Took over my childhood. And then 97, actually, we were moving in 1997. We moved in with my our grandparents, and I don't know if you were even born yet.
No, 97. I was born in December 2nd, 97.
So
was I a thought yet?
I think Mom was pregnant with you at the old house, and then we moved in
from Brentwood.
Yeah, so I don't think you were alive even yet. But the 97 Marlins, we had all the games, and I was living at Grandma and Grandpa's house that summer, and they got the newspaper, which is cool. We didn't get the newspaper at our house, but I got every newspaper. And I put clippings and I build them into this whole thing. I watched every single 1997 Marlins baseball game. I did not miss one. And I literally made like a whole book of it. And I was still a Yankee fan, but they were so fun to watch. That our local team that had all the televised games, and they had Levon Hernandez come in, and it was like a whole other magical run. I was like, holy cow. And
now, I think you texted me about this, but remember that game in I think it was the 97 playoffs where he had like 13, 15 strikeouts or whatever. Don't put a K-zone on it. He had like an extra 18 inches off the plate.
Yeah, if you haven't watched that, go on YouTube and watch Levon Hernandez versus the Braves' horrible strike zone or something. Literally, like the thumbnail picture is the catcher like catching it out here, and the umpire just like, like all fired up about horrible. Actually, after that game, the umpire was never allowed to umpire again. And he unfortunately passed away from a heart attack a few years later. I did further research on him.
I think I remember that. He was the one who had the heart attack like on field or something at the stop of game.
He
wasn't that one?
That was, I did see that. That was like 95 with the Reds. But yeah, unfortunately, that Marlins team was pretty magical. And then the Yankees magic continued. And the childhood was just like magical watching that and just visioning maybe becoming a Major League Baseball player one day.
So one thing I'm curious about, because like, in my childhood, when I was growing up, Jeter was kind of like already the face of baseball, and every kid has his number. How immediate was his impact in your childhood? Because you kind of grew up with Jeter. Yeah,
Jeter was not quite the face of baseball yet.
Ken Griffey still was, Junior.
Also 97, the home run race was so magical. McGuire,
98,
Sosa,
McGuire.
Like that was big headlines in baseball. But I was a big Jeter guy, and Jeter wasn't. Even if I think historically he's the best shortstop of all time, but he definitely was never like the best shortstop in baseball, which is kind of weird too. Because A-Rod was clearly better. Nomar was putting up like 40 home run seasons, and it just. But Jeter was always winning, and Jeter was just always.
That's all he cared about. You listen to him talk about it this day, like he knows that Nomar and A-Rod had better seasons than him, but they don't have 5 rings on their finger.
Yeah, Jeter, what a good face for baseball. What a good role model. For me as a kid, I just this past weekend watched the documentary for the first time.
Oh, the captain?
I watched it with my son, Miles. As he was getting ready for a baseball camp, and I was like, what a good tune-up for him to see what I grew up with baseball. And he's 7 now. And
he's at a very good age for that. No, like I give him some lessons sometimes. Like he loves it. How's that seeing it as a father? Like the game you grew up playing, like your son's just as into it. It's got to be pretty great.
It's really cool. We can we'll probably go into some depth with baseball careers and all that. And a lot of, when I stepped away from baseball, like I coached for a little while after, but like it was this big hangover and couldn't watch baseball anymore.
Oh yeah. And that's something we'll get into later, but like what I want to focus on.
But what I'm saying with it's a reinvigoration of like the game, and that I came, because touching on that, like when I left it, like I felt like, man, I wasted so much time on that. Like I did all that.
No, you didn't. That's the good thing about this podcast. No, you didn't.
Right. And touching on that though, like I gave it everything I had. It's everything I thought about every day, and you kind of get that hangover. But watching your kid do it. Like then you're pulling out like, holy cow, it made me who I am today. So I didn't lose everything because you have this dream and you never can conquer this mountain in this game that you're trying to climb. And, but maybe it's not about getting to the top of the mountain. Maybe it's just attempting to climb it,
Yeah. So going back to your childhood, like, how immediately were you hooked, and, what really drove that passion? Because
rephrase that again. Say it again.
So going back to your childhood, how immediately were you hooked? Like what age did baseball become your life?
96.
96. So it was with falling in love with the Yankees?
Yeah, I was about Miles' age.
Okay.
It started there. And I remember like being 7 and like, I remember thinking like, I could watch this all the time, and like I don't need to watch cartoons anymore. Cartoons are like dumb. Like I felt like so mature because like I didn't watch cartoons anymore. So I gave those up at like 7. I was like, I'm gonna learn about baseball and sports, and then like it truly felt like October baseball was like magic, and like it literally just felt like nothing in the world else mattered besides baseball.
And well, the media was a lot different back then too.
Yeah, in terms of just sports, or
well, yeah, like you had like one channel to watch playoff games on. It's not like now where you can like pirate a stream off of Reddit.
But even at that time, like media was transformational too, because like they literally had a station called Sports Center that just played sports all day. Like that wasn't a thing before. Before you had
that's when they came to the right. That's when they came to the top of their power.
But excuse me. Before that. Like you had to catch like the sports clips on the news station. Hopefully you caught some of it. So it was cool. Now you can get it even more. Like it's just anything you want to immerse yourself in life more. Like you can even now watch Dugout Chatter to even hear more about baseball. Like you can go so much more deep and level because everyone you have more opportunities for broadcast. You can broadcast yourself. You can listen to other people's broadcasts. But at the time, like I could get all the baseball I wanted, you know, and I still feel that way today. Obviously.
Yeah. So like going a little bit deeper into the playing days, I mean, one thing I really like getting out on this podcast is like you learn, like especially baseball is like the best teacher for life lessons because it will knock you the fuck down and it will build you up and you have to learn everything in between. So like when you were in your high school years, did you really start learning those lessons as far as the game on the field and transferring that into real life?
Yeah. Man, I go through when I reflect, even thinking about coming on this podcast, I was thinking so much about how do I view all that? Like I left kind of a bad taste in my mouth when I left baseball. And like I was like so okay with being done with it, but then like I knew I wanted to show it to my kid. And when I really look back, and I'll touch on the high school part, but I feel like I just remember all of like the failures more than I do the good moments, which just sounds strange. Like I remember like being 9-10 years old and like obviously like being like one of the better players on my rec team, but I didn't make the all-star team. And it was because like my dad didn't coach. And I learned about like the politics at that stance. Then I remember, getting to like my middle school tryout in 6th grade and just realizing, holy cow, like these other people are like men and I'm like this little boy. Like I need to do something with myself to make myself better. So like I clearly didn't make the team that year. And I remember that failure, but I remember like also kind of being okay with it. I was like, all right, I'm not ready. But now what can I do going into next year? I remember like getting so ready for my 7th grade year, making it to like the last round of tryouts and then getting cut again. And man, like I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was like mom would try to make me feel better and all that. I'm like I literally gave it everything and didn't make the team. And then by the time I got my 8th grade year, I made the team. And then by 9th grade year, I went to a stacked Santa Lucia's team.
Oh, no, please talk about that because for the people listening, like Santa Lucia's back in the day, they were kind of like the hub for baseball in South Florida. And South Florida baseball is a big deal. Like Trey Turner came out of here, Jared Saltalamacchia, like you could name people all day. And when you were going to Santa Lucia's, there was about, 120 people trying out?
Yeah. I remember the fall team. Back then, high school coaches could not coach their fall team, which was interesting. And yeah, it was a fat tryout. And I made the team, and a lot of my friends got cut from that team. And it was kind of almost weird. Like I remember the day I made the team, and I had to ride back in a car with my friends who got cut. And it was like very awkward. Like I felt like so like happy and proud because it was very hard to make. And I just know every time, all those failures of not making what I was working hard to make, and then getting that gratification of getting it.
So it was the best way to describe it, failure is feedback.
Failures. Yeah. I mean, I just kept on like trying again, climb this mountain, get to the top of it. And every time I kind of thought I was there, I would get a little humbled. And,
but that's also the beautiful thing is like baseball knocks you back down on your ass.
Yeah. That we talk about the failure ratios and like, that's really healthy. Learn, cause even in like business, you'll be more successful than you are in baseball. So it kind of helps with that dynamic, but, touching on that team, Santa Lucia's, I believe, was ranked nationally. And again, going out and just watching these dudes, they were just men. Like Joey Howell looked like a Major League Baseball player in high school. Like he was just big calves out to here. Tony Cruz wasn't even.
Oh, you were there with Tony Cruz?
Tony Cruz played on that same team.
Really quick, for those of you listening, Tony Cruz won a World Series with the Cardinals.
Yeah, he was Yadier's number 2 and he caught a lot of innings and I mean everyone on that team, Chris Eberhard,
Josh Bell
was so a cool thing was kind of not a cool thing. Like so my freshman year I played JV. I actually lettered my sophomore year and got to play on a team with Josh Bell, and I was so proud of making it, but it was also just not the right team. I needed more time to develop.
Yeah.
And I didn't get a lot of reps that year because I was just backing up, catching, and but they needed me there. And I remember when I was getting some playing time and playing on a team, and we were state ranked at that time. I think we were top 10 in the state. We ended up facing another professional pitcher, Chris Volstad, in regional play, and we lost. We lost 3-2. Could have gone any other way. And but like when I got on the field, man, I was trying so hard to build my body up. To get bigger, to physically stand next to these people. Naturally, I was kind of a wiry guy. We probably similar genetics that we share.
Yeah, we all look like our dad.
Right.
so many times.
So I was trying to build myself up, and I'll just give you an example of like how hard it was to build myself up. Like going into I played some college baseball. I injured myself. I was weighing about 180 180 pounds, 185 pounds, but literally like all muscle, weight gainers, working out, creatine, anything I could do to put weight on me. And I tore my labrum. And from not lifting anymore, I lost 45 pounds. And my body naturally wanted to be 45 pounds less. Like that's how hard I was working to get to a level to stand on the field and be like level with these guys. And but touching on that, like I wasn't ready. So when I was getting out there, I had the yips. I had the yips. Yeah. I was just like my adrenaline was going through my body. And I was also probably a little tight too, looking back. And as I was lifting so much, I was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, going to the gym. And I just, looking back, and I would have done a lot of things differently.
What's funny is like I got in a similar situation my junior year, but it was like that with fielding. Like I couldn't just take a ground ball from second. Like it affected my hands. It was weird. Like I got nervous because you were coaching the JV team at the time, and like everyone.
That's a whole other story there.
That's a whole other story there. But for a sidetrack, like people thought I was there because you were the JV coach, and then I'm nervous in front of Franco trying to prove my worth, and my hands got fucking stiff.
Yeah, it's a lot of anxiety, man.
No, it is.
What's going on there? I learned more dealing with anxiety, that your body is going into fight or flight mode at the wrong time. And it's like you should need to be relaxed, but you are in fight or flight at that moment, and you are just.
It's about controlling your nervous system, and all this is beautiful because it comes back to because baseball taught you all that.
Sort of.
It stemmed from there.
You learn how to deal with things. But
going back to like your freshman year, the nationally ranked team, like what was it that made you stand out to like survive the cuts and then make varsity your sophomore year?
Well, I made varsity my sophomore year because St. Louis just thinned out. As much as I want to say, like I was playing good. I was getting better. I could contribute to the team. So, but my freshman year making that team, it was. They probably had thinned out a little bit too, but I think I really deserved to be on that team. But Park Vista taking away St. Lucius definitely made a gap. I'm sure if all the Park Vista kids stayed, I would have stayed on JV and had to compete for playing time there too. It would have been very competitive. But making it the freshman year too, I mean, you just had it. You had to stand out in front of 120 kids. It's so the statistics of getting out there, getting playing time. Was much harder than I see the schools now. I see I coached for 5 years, and I coached at John Wayne Leonard and St. Lucius. They were all getting you had to be really bad not to make the team, but on these teams you actually had to be really good to make the team. So the dynamics changed as time went on, and I think that's. But I was really proud to make that team. As I learned a lot. I got to play with some again they were just grown men. Batting practice was. Like watching home run derby, the balls would sail out right and left.
How was it watching guys like Tony Cruz?
So he was my freshman year. I didn't play with Tony.
And Josh Bell.
Bell, I played with Josh Bell. Funny story, Josh Bell, he was nationally, he was ranked as one of the top players going into his high school year.
He has 100 big league games under his belt.
He hit 2 home runs off Cliff Lee. Too.
Yeah, wasn't that his major league debut?
I don't know.
No, sorry. It wasn't his major league debut. He hit them right-handed.
But it was fascinating that the scouts would come all over. And this is a funny story. So, and again, batting practice was a show. So Josh would go out there, hit from the left side, hit from the right side, hit with wood to kind of show him what he is.
Mr. Ambidextrio.
And then I would go up there and I would hit. And I remember I had just a good round one day. And I remember Franco yells out, "Not bad for a sophomore," in front of all the scouts. So that was kind of a cool moment. I was like, oh, yeah.
I remember you kept up with Josh Bell a little bit. You saw him when he was in Norfolk with the Orioles at the time.
Yeah, so I went on to play college baseball. Another kind of cool, proud moment. I got a scholarship to play college baseball. Again, looking back on it, should have been better. I should have. If I just did these things differently, I could have developed my body more.
Say that.
Yeah, it's just it leaves a bitter taste,
No, it does.
So the college journey was I got a scholarship, and I ended up transferring after I tore my labrum. I went up to go play the school with some friends in New York, and actually where I first saw Josh was in AAA. He was playing against the Sky Chiefs, and Steven Strasburg was pitching against him.
Oh my God!
So I went over to see Josh and caught up with him, and I just played with him, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So he was really cool, and then when I was driving home, I stopped at our cousin's house in Virginia, and he was playing a game there. So I got to keep. I don't even know how to get in touch with Josh anymore. But at the time, I still had a cell phone number from high school, and. Yeah, it was pretty cool getting a chance to catch up with him.
Yeah, going back to the torn labrum, this is something I like getting at on the podcast is because like I feel like a lot of people in the baseball world don't talk about it. When your playing days comes to an end, it's one of the most isolating fucking feelings you'll ever feel.
Yeah.
Like, and especially for you were better than me. No doubt about that. Like I found a way to survive, but when an injury cuts you short, how was that internalizing it?
Well, you say I'm better than you, but like I'm also like I think you should be more proud of your playing career. I think you got more out of yourself than I. Like I really feel like I did not get everything I could have done more.
I pushed myself because I didn't have the talent.
And like I see you playing now, man, you had a good high school career, you know?
Yeah, I made the best that I could out of it. My thing was I was a workaholic.
Yeah. And then getting back to like the isolating thing, our mother.
It put me in a dark place, dude.
Yeah.
Like I was 18. You don't know what you're doing with your life. Your playing career's over, and then like, hey, figure out the real world.
Well, I think from our household, our mother was like super. Like when I told her like I wanted to play baseball and I wanted to go at it.
Oh, she was on board for everything. Mom is always one of our biggest supporters.
And I've never told her this, and she'll see it the first time here. But I think a lot of
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mom.
Well, I'll say this, Mom. I've never said this to you, and I know this to be fact. But you were so in tune with being a dreamer with us on our wildest dreams of playing baseball, whatever level we thought we could or go for. Because Mom actually wanted to be an artist, and I know this bleeds through. And I know our grandfather said being an artist is not a real job. I'm not going to support that. And I think with her, like I think she lived through us in a way. And I remember the day I told her like I was done, and it was hard for me to accept it, and it was as hard for her to accept like, all right, you're not gonna chase your dreams anymore. Like that's like fuck.
But also at a certain point, you have to realize, I was talking on last week's podcast with Brian, is like at some point you have to realize like you're not cut from the same cloth as some of these people. Like some people, they can hit an outside fastball off the plate well over the fence to left center, like 420. You can't do that physically, and you have to come to that realization too.
Yeah, I man. Tell me I can't do something, you're gonna drive me crazy. That's
Hit the weight room then.
Right. Like swallowing that pill, man. That's probably why I'm bitter looking back on it, because I just feel like I could have figured it out. And
so also along that journey, like you're saying, to paraphrase really quick, you got into baseball, you're obsessed, you got to the point where you played college, you kept making it to the next level, you had an injury cut you short, and then now you're at the point where baseball's done and you get into real life. So where did things go from there?
Well, I remember I met my future wife in college, and then I remember, okay, well, seeing where this is going, like I was trying to rehab, coming back from being 140 pounds, like I never get back to that level.
I actually kind of remember that because like Mom was like, Jess doesn't realize what she's getting into.
What do you mean by that?
She didn't realize what she was getting into on the baseball side because you were hurt. Yeah.
And just getting back and like physically at that level, getting back there was such a hard road. Then the psychological element, and then playing in cold weather, like fucking sucked, dude.
And that shoots your body in a different way because your muscles are a lot tighter.
I'll tell you like how I knew. Like I do think I have an elbow injury I've never treated, and I try to play through it. Like I would jack myself up with not painkillers, but like ibuprofen, high doses to play, and then doing that for a while. With coming down to South Florida to play in our opening series, and I had a pretty good opening series in Florida. Body felt loose, warm weather. Then went up to my first game to play in Baltimore, and it was cold. It snowed. I had the hat trick, and just fucking horrible game. And I remember I do push-ups every night before I went to bed, and that night I could not push my body up. I'm like, shit, something's not right here. And I tried to go back and start playing through it again. I didn't know, and then I went to this doctor, that doctor, and if players and anyone watching this, if you're ever like have a serious injury that you think is not to do with bones, get an ink MRI. It sounds like so simple looking back on it, but like I wasted so much time and not getting a proper diagnosis. So I still have some stuff that I never ended up fixing. But the surgery bills were high. I ended up having to pay those off later. That's a whole other story. But and then then trying to come back, and then realizing those days were done. In college, I know I wanted to get good grades. In high school, I was always pretty good academically, but in high school I lost interest. And then I knew in college I needed to keep a good GPA to continue playing. So I remember hearing like Steve Jobs just in college took classes that he liked. That helped me keep my GPA high, but was not an efficient way to get a degree. So I ended up graduating with like 40 more credits than like you would actually need if you just stayed focused. So that was inefficient. But yet, so towards the end there, I went to the guidance counselor and said, "Hey, I've taken all these classes. What can I do with them?" And he's like, "Well, if you put some over here, put some over there, you can get like this liberal arts degree and maybe teach high school history." And I was like, "Well, I could do that, and then I could like coach baseball." And like I'm kind of doing that. Like, I can get a shoe in, maybe get a job.
So was this around the time, and you, like you said earlier in the episode, you were coaching high school baseball? Did this bring you back? Were you thinking you would go down the same career path that Franco did?
I think for a time, I highly considered it. I came back to Florida. I was living in Baltimore, then I transferred up to school in New York, and then I had come down after being gone for 3 years. Moved back to sleep on mom's couch. And
haven't we all?
So sleeping on mom's couch, and was like, all right, I gotta go towards this degree my guidance counselor told me to do, and if I do this XYZ, I can get there in like in a year and a half, 2 years, have enough credits to become a high school teacher. And so let me reach out. I actually had gotten a call from one of my college teammates, his father, for John A. Leonard to help coach, and I was like, sure, I'll do that. And I got a job doing security overnights, and did studies during the day, and coached some baseball, and found some time to sleep in between. And it was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go the Franco route. So I was taking that like very seriously. And things changed with my career. I had a great time coaching. I coached there at John A. Leonard. And I remember Franco, we went out for some drinks, and
Franco, like I had him on, like fucking, you gotta love him.
Well, I went out, actually, it's a funny story. I went out with Franco and Coach Chanley.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Andrew, that's something on its own.
So we go out and we sit down, we're having some beers, and I love how like Chanley like didn't want to, he kind of wanted to big league it a little bit, and he's like, I think this is a good opportunity for you to come home. It's just like if like, you went, before you can work for dad's company, you got to go and become a manager somewhere else to prove you can do it. And then you can come home and work for dad's company. So that's like kind of like my journey back to St. Lucius. Like I had to go prove myself at John A. Leonard. I ran the JV program over there and was super excited to come to St. Lucius.
Hey, you coached me.
Well, yeah, I got to coach you for 2 years, and got to, I got to have a lot of cool experience. Actually, Braden was a part of the organization.
Oh yeah, that was the senior year. So I actually remember that because I think it was when I was in 8th grade. We went to one of your games, and obviously towards the end of the senior year, we go to Braden's senior night and everything. So, what was it like getting to coach Braden then into me, and then on the going down the track a little more, Pete?
So we'll start with Braden. I didn't coach him in high school.
Yeah, I remember we got called up at the end of one spring season. At the end of the JV season, they bring some of the JV guys up. So I remember they brought you up as part of the coaching staff. So
I was always very focused on being a non-biased coach.
Yeah. Really quick. All of the guys, like my buddies I played with, like the Jacobs and Zach, they said that you treated me worse than everybody else. So you did a good job on that. And I
really don't think I did. I think it was perceived that way because I wasn't giving favoritism. I think it's like, why aren't you giving him favoritism? He's your brother. You're driving him home after.
But no, like other guys like Chad and Gunny and all that is you did.
If I did, it was not by intention. I did my best to be objective, and I did maybe, hopefully I'm proud of my coaching tenure.
No, you did a good job. Like a lot of guys said that you coached them better than they've had in their life. And I think when I first got there, I was extremely focused. Then my career started building kind of a business throughout coaching there, and that turned into my whole other life. That is now all consuming and getting to sponsor this podcast today. There you go. You're welcome, Andrew.
And actually from there I can still stem it to baseball. I've invested in a number of businesses now that all stem from baseball. I've invested into Dusty Our Live, which was my former teammate, Dustin Francis. I've invested into a commercial kitchen stop with Scott Delaney. I've invested into Ravish, which also is a St. Lucius graduate. She played softball there.
I didn't know.
She was a St. Lucius graduate.
Alex, I had the A right.
So, I owe a lot of my businesses that I own today due to my playing days and the friendships that I made from there. Really, the friendships is what's stemming from it all. And even cool enough, we got to throw that surprise party for Coach Franco at Ravish, which
he was so surprised.
It was cool, man. My goal was to get him to cry, and we got him to cry.
Yeah, no, we definitely did.
And that guy does not cry easy. Like he's very.
He went through the four of us. He doesn't cry easy.
No, not at all. Like he holds his emotions very well.
Yeah.
And so that was 21 years. All those guys coming out. You're really building community. Like again, like baseball in itself.
Baseball is a community.
It's a community at the end of the day. It's got good values. It teaches hard work. It's so hard to figure out the game. Like again, looking back on it, like I wish. Again, if I could do it again, or I just want like one more good game to be a part of, to feel that.
Really quick, like I know what you're saying, because one more good game. Like my girlfriend that Grace, she came down at the date of recording last weekend, and she saw me play, and like it was the first time she saw me get like a good clean hit. And that was the best feeling. I still remember the ball. Like it almost took the pitcher's like shins off. Like you don't forget those feelings when you hit it hard through.
Yeah, it was hard for me to even come back and play anything like that. Like without the, it's so crazy. Like, I'm so.
So why do you feel like baseball hit you so hard when you were done?
Identity crisis. Ryan is a baseball player. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't know how to detach myself from that. I didn't know who I actually really was, which is kind of weird. And didn't know how I viewed the world. And at the time, the world in 2000, kind of when it was coming to my college career, like the financial crisis happened, everyone lost their homes, and it's like, holy cow! Like I'm focusing on this sport nonstop, but like the world just fell apart. Like, shouldn't I learn about like the world? Like, so I got like obsessed with like economics and business, and like it drove my whole other. Going a mile deep into things like I did with baseball. So
where'd you end up going that mile deep because of baseball?
I went into something called the Austrian School of Economics, which I don't want to go too far into, but it led me into the world of Bitcoin, and which led me to the seed money to start a lot of these businesses, which was pretty cool in a sense. That's where I went. But again, like I went home with it. Like I went back and coached, and I did it in my community, like building a business. Like the restaurant I own in Lantana is 2 minutes from the baseball fields I grew up playing with. Like it's such like a cool feeling to come back to the community I grew up in. I played for George's Meat Market. It was the first team I ever played on. That was a lot of fun, and I want to continue building in the community. I want to leave a mark from that perspective, like watching Coach Franco and all the players that he's left a mark on, and how he did it. Like I'd like to leave a mark in my business career, and in helping build a strong community of businesses.
Yeah. So going from the end of your baseball career, so how do you feel like that transition? You went to dealing with it with Miles now. Like he's in love with it. How'd you get over those harsh feelings? And like, I don't know. Well, why are you excited for baseball again? Because I feel like even the times I've taken him out for lessons, it just brings you back to those early days. Like this kid's in love with something else.
Cool story. I'm not coaching his baseball team. I'm not going to coach it for a couple of years until
that's completely fair.
Well, because I'm loving not coaching because you got to worry about all the kids.
Yeah.
And when I do that, I want to really be able to take care of all the kids. With you. I don't want it when I coach you. I don't want to be biased towards you. I am being biased towards my kid right now.
Yeah,
and I fucking love it. Now
you get all the time with him selfishly that you want.
So adding that, and I can be in his ear. I can get into his psyche, and I'll tell you a couple cool stories.
Let's hear it.
The first one is, so I told I was on a work trip and I came back and I missed a couple practices. I told the guys, hey, I'd help coach. Like we need a guy to go out, shag, throw some people, whatever. I'm not going to be the head coach, but I'll be an assistant or something like that. I was willing to do that. But by the time I came back from my work trip, they said, no, we got it. We got coaches. I was like, all right, no problem. I was like, I played a little bit, whatever, but I'll go in the bleachers, no problem. So the season went on, and they had a team coming around, and then one day they're like, "Hey, players, we're going to hit after, and we can go in the field and just shag the parents if they want." So I took Miles' glove, and I went out to first base, and one of the kids got on first, and I was playing first base. And you know how like baseball players have certain twitches that they have. You have certain twitch muscles that like if someone else goes out and do it, they look like kind of an idiot. Like baseball is like very touch and feel. So I'm playing first base. I get a ground ball that goes to my left side. I turn glove side. Feel throw a dart at the shortstop who catches it, throws it back to first, gives it to me in the dirt, pick it out of the dirt, double play. And everyone just kind of stopped like, oh, you can play.
And you're not just here to coach kids.
So it kind of became this cool thing that oh my God, like you played, tell me more. And I get in the car with my kid after, and Miles goes, Dad, I want to be good like you. And so I go,
that's got to hit on so many different levels.
But no, I stopped him. I said, Miles, this was hard to get this good.
Yeah.
Be careful what you're asking for. If you really want to get good, like this, I bled for this. I sweat for this. I thought about this nonstop. This is not, you just don't ask for it.
Yeah.
Like if you really want this, I'll give it to you, but be careful what you're asking for.
But the beautiful thing is he's putting in the work. Every time I do something with him, he goes out and does it.
Yeah, he's, I got to be careful. I was so apprehensive about kind of showing him baseball too, in a way. I was letting him play soccer, do this, because I didn't want like the Ryan that goes a mile deep to project that on his kid.
Yeah.
But when he asked me that day, it's like, all right, he's opening the door.
He has to learn the hard way.
But so that was cool, and I saw another kind of cool baseball dad moment that happened this week, and I shared it on social media on Facebook. But it was
I saw that.
On Monday I go to drop Miles off at one of my big coaches in my life, Juan Boostabad.
Here, give Boosty a shout out. Boosty's had to deal with all of us.
So if you're watching this in the baseball community, you've probably heard the name Juan Boostabad. I think the number 1 overall draft pick in 1985. He coached for the Dodgers organization for like 15 years.
Did he go in the same draft as Roger Clemens? Dad was saying something like that, but Dad's memory is Dad's memory.
Be careful with that.
Yeah, it gets a little crazy. But no, Boosty was a really good player. Number one overall draft, played for the Dodgers, and yeah.
So, anyways, I drive Miles to practice, and I get there like super early, but I want to catch up with Boosty, and I spend like an hour there. But I kind of spent the hour there because I wanted him to kind of not be in that awkward phase. Mm-hmm. Not be in that awkward phase of like, hey, we're all sitting waiting for camp to happen. Here's a bunch of people I don't know. We're going to stand here. And what Miles did was he realized that he was feeling that awkwardness of not knowing when feeling shy. He felt very shy, but in his head, he thought, okay, I feel shy, so maybe the other people feel shy.
Yeah.
And he made this like emotional intelligence, I call it EQ, emotional intelligence decision to say, hey, if I feel this way, maybe they feel that way, and let me go break the ice, and let me go, try to build a friend here, and maybe they would really appreciate this. I would appreciate if someone did it to me. Yeah. He's thinking for himself, so they maybe appreciate it. So that was a really cool dad baseball kind of moment because it's again the friendships, the community, all the other things it builds, and then. Yeah, you mentioned Dad. I think we should talk about. So I said he wasn't a baseball guy, but hats off to him. He tried his damn best and did a very good job.
Dad would go out and even when I was in high school, and he was in his diabetic years, late 50s. He was still throwing me BP.
Yeah, like I said, when I got cut from that All-Star team, I think it was like it was undeserving. It was just kind of became like this daddy ball thing, which was fine, but he's like, hey, my kid loves this obviously and needs some help in it, so let me step in and let me start coaching him. And I remember in some of the early teams that he coached me, he still had so much to learn, and I would actually tell him where to talk to the umpire. I was coaching through him in a way. I would go and tell him what to do and what to say, and it was a cool bond that we got to share because it was like I got to teach my dad something. Dad always teaches you, so it was kind of this cool I felt like he appreciated me and saw that I was he saw my talents and I was smart at something,
Yeah. So where do you feel like baseball took you into your professional career? Because there's a lot to unpack. So
there's we use a tool in our companies when we survey people. The tool is called Culture Index, and with the thesis in it. It says you are who you are by the time you're 13 years old.
Okay.
You're pretty much wired yourself by that time. So I think about that a lot right now with my 7-year-old, but you're pretty much wired at 13 years old. So everything you're doing up into the 13, you're building a personality trait that you're going to carry with you most of your life. And so I have to owe a lot of that to baseball. So my actually personality surveys, I'm a daredevil. I'm all gas, no brakes. I want to go 100 million miles an hour, and I want to build and do it and move everything out of my way. And that's perceivably stopping me. And you probably have heard some undertones of that if we watch this back. But that was probably built through playing baseball and what I thought I had to do to be good. And so that's who I am. And, for better or for worse, like it's interesting in a business sense. Like it's good to have a daredevil or some of these other kind of category people. You need other kinds of people too.
Yeah.
A bunch of daredevils will
somebody even them out.
Yeah, it's a different. Learning more about business, but definitely, yeah, you like that. That's what I took away from it. Baseball created a daredevil.
That's interesting. So before we get wrapping up, is there anything you want to plug before we get going? Because I'm sure there's about a million things.
God, I don't want to.
It's your moment in the sun.
I don't want to be that guy, but I am that guy. Like I said, so any of actually, I have a YouTube channel myself called Ryan Giffin, just my name.
Okay.
That's where I share a lot of my interest in economics and investing.
And if you
cryptocurrency,
want, forward me all them in an email. I'll link them all down below in the link of the episode.
Yeah. So I think on top of everything I'm doing in my life right now, like I definitely think just building peer-to-peer electronic cash using cryptocurrency, specifically a coin I like a lot, is Bitcoin Cash or Monero. But that whole vision shared on that channel. And if you're, I didn't get into Bitcoin for investing. I got into it for philosophical reasons. It turned into an investment. So if you're interested in investing, I guess you can look at that too. But that's Ryan Giffin. Again, the sponsor of this episode is Ravish Off Ocean. If you want to come,
Andrew, it's Ravish.
we got the best happy hour in town, 4 to 6, half off drinks, $7
Beautiful spot
bites.
Downtown Lake Worth. Your wife's gonna love it, Andrew.
But also, it's a gorgeous restaurant. So
no, it really is.
I'll tell you a quick funny story about that. I was actually in St. Kitts speaking at a Bitcoin Cash conference, trying to get legal tender pass in St. Kitts. So this is how involved I am in crypto. I was speaking at a conference, and my good friend Alex messaged me and said, "Hey, she said Ravish is for sale." And I said, "Oh, I love that place." And they kind of threw out a number that they wanted in a structure, and I was like, "I would never offer that," and like offer this like very low ball offer. And by the time I come back from my trip from St. Kitts, she tells me, "Oh, we got the restaurant." Oh, shit. So I was like, all right, got to figure out how to get this restaurant going. But it's actually been a very fun ride. We got like insane stuff coming. I've always loved the place. It's gorgeous. It's like built into like a garden. Like there's nothing else like it in Palm Beach County. And we have one of the best chefs in the county, Chef Johnny DiMartini. Like the food is insanely good. Fresh seafood, fresh steaks. Super creative menu, craft cocktails. We got some. Alex is known for that. She's one of the top mixologists in the county. So I'll shill that all day. I'm super proud of that.
All right, before we go, really quick, I need a funny baseball story.
A funny baseball story. Man, on the spot.
Whatever you want to pick, I don't care. I've had so many dick stories.
Oh man,
it's been kind of gross.
I don't know if I'll go.
Sorry,
there.
Colin. I see you over there.
Funny baseball story, man. I don't know. There's someone.
It can be playing moment or like I don't know. Pick a baseball story.
I'm going through a few in my head right now.
Well, it can be an on the field moment, something that was good, or just something funny. Like something funny you've seen from your teammates that's probably fucked up.
I got you.
That you shouldn't do in normal society.
I don't know if I go there. I mean, I could tell you that. Like one of Franco's favorite stories that he tells teams a lot. When the early season high school workouts, we're getting there. School's not even open back up yet, but we're getting there. We're in the locker room, and we're kind of getting our jerseys or something on a weekend. It was not a normal day.
Okay,
where like you're usually not up that early, but you're doing this. But I'm there early. I'm on time, and Franco goes, where's Scott Delaney? Where's Scott? Scott's my partner now, one of my best friends.
Question.
Where's Scott? And I was like, oh shit, where's Scott? He's my boy. Let me text him. And I'm like, Scott, where are you? And like, I call him and I wake him up. I'm like, oh shit. So I was like, Coach, he had an issue. Like, I'm gonna help. I gotta help him. I'm gonna go get him. And then he's like, all right, Giff, go get him. And then so I go to his house, not far down the road. I go there, and Scott's just like in total chill mode, like completely late. Like oblivious to the world that he slept through this and we had this brilliant idea. He's like, all right, yeah, he's getting stuff ready. He's in the car on the way. He's like, man, I could really use some Dunkin'. So I was like, Dunkin' sounds good.
Why not?
I go there and we roll in with Dunkin' Donut bags in there, and Franco lost it on us. And he said, "What the hell is this? You guys are late, and you're bringing in Dunkin'." And like, so he tells this story like all the time, and like we tell the story over and over again. So that's a pretty that's one I'll never forget, actually.
Yeah, no, that's really funny. And well, Brian, thank you so much for being on. And if you want to come back, well, you're actually going to be back with the episode with all four brothers. It's probably going to be chaotic.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect with that one, man. It's going to be...
I don't know either, but thank you so much to Ravish Kitchen and Cocktails for sponsoring this episode. And we'll also put their information down in the link in the bio before we go. And is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Just I was going to touch on... I don't know if anyone needs it, but like the company with Scott, who I just told that story about. So he actually turned out to be a fine citizen after his.
Oh no, he was the coolest guy at Santa Lucia's, and he goes grocery shopping with our brother Kieran.
So
That's all you need to know.
we actually started I'll tell the other two stories of my other ball player friends, because that's so me and Scott started a commercial kitchen stop. We're actually located on Forest Hill and Congress. We have a 15,000 square foot showroom for if you guys want to have any industrial
sounds like a lot of show notes. Send me it all.
Yeah, commercial ice machines, all that good stuff, and then
anything on the back end of a restaurant, they got you. They got 3 separate businesses for that, and they're there 24/7, and pretty much.
And then Dusty Art Live.
Oh yeah, Dusty Art Live. They'll host the restaurant that you're using all their appliances for.
What's that?
No, Dusty Art Live will host all the restaurant for the appliances.
So if you want to do a fun paint night, anything like that, Dusty Art Live is at Ravish every Saturday. We do the Key Lime House the first Tuesday of every month. We do private parties. If you want to do fun paint parties, just check out Dusty Art Live on Dusty Art 4 on Instagram. You can check out. He actually turned out to be a very popular local artist, ball player turned artist.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Ryan, thank you for being here, and I'll see you soon for the Brotherly Love episode, new series we're starting.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And thank you for letting me plug and shill all my shit. Thanks, bud.
All right, see you guys next week.